Hello and welcome to this vlog post. You weren't expecting to see me so soon, were you? Well, I am not. Well, I am actually in Tel Aviv, but I'm not at the same time. I am here in my study in North Wales. Amazing what you can do with technology when you actually learn. Today I will be sharing with you it's a book from one of my favourite authors to work with. This is Emma Calin's latest offering from her Passion Patrol series. This is Power. The things that I really enjoy about Emma's books, aside from the fact that they are fabulously naughty and they don't take themselves too seriously, just seriously enough, is that she always writes really strong female protagonists, which, you know, raise the flag for authors who do that, because in my opinion there are not enough of them. So yeah, let's all write strong female protagonists. As well as that, her books, this series, they're sort of detective novels, they are police detective novels, as well as quite strong erotica, and I believe, although don't quote me on this, I believe Emma's husband is ex-police, so she fact checks her work quite authentically. So there's a good chance that what you're reading is maybe based on some sort of real life experience, although that is purely conjecture, so definitely don't quote me on that, and I am not putting that out as a fact. Let me read to you the back of Emma Calin's Power. A thug pulls a knife on a mean London street. Police Constable Olivia Johnston Denny faces him down. A regular day. When irresistible American Congressman Jackson T. Payne intervenes, her life is changed forever. A spark of attraction starts an inferno of erotic heat. In a world of bitter political division and deceit, this one man offers straightforward country-style honesty. Tipped as a future president, ruthless opponents plot his downfall, by smear or by death. Olivia and Jackson cannot risk involvement, but forces of emotion and passion run out of control. A merciless kidnap and gangster-style international bankers fill Olivia's working days. Only in the shadows can she express her love for Jackson. When her professional investigations lead her to her lover's door, she stands at a dark abyss. Is he everything he seems? She has to know the truth, as a cop and as a woman in love. Another standalone story in the Passion Patrol series of steamy suspense romance novels. Emma Calin holds nothing back to bring you her juicy mix of cops, crime and passion. I mean, that's basically everything you need to know about this book. But just because I like you, I'm going to give you a teaser. I'm going to attempt to read the whole of chapter 1 for you. But just as a disclaimer, this book includes a variety of somewhat dubious accents. And in chapter 1, I will present you with fairly decent Cockney, passable Scottish, and something that could be considered as not great Southern American. So in advance, please forgive me for these things. They may or may not be better in the audio production, but you're just going to have to listen to find out. Chapter 1. It was a knife. Power had shifted, and the guy facing her possessed it. Despite her uniform and the authority of the law, she was a static target of blood and tissue. Her eyes flicked between the blade and the face of what she thought was a homeless guy. Late 30s, dirty wild beard, eyes hard and merciless. A second before she'd been checking the street for security threats. She bent down to speak kindly to some ragged lost soul lying by the plastic sacks of trash. He turned like a cobra. She could... Oh, sorry, I lost my place because I looked at the camera. She jumped back. She could hear the pumping of her blood. Her mouth was dry. He could lunge before she could draw her baton or deploy her CS gas spray. Defense of her body core would slice her hands and tendons. She needed time. Hey, how are you doing, fella? His face twisted. He let out a dark growl. Her hand inched toward the gas canister on her belt. She'd have to flip off the fastener, draw and aim. His eyes fixed on her hand. No trouble, my friend. Just wanted to see if you're okay, she said, calming her voice and breathing. The guy looked down, still pointing the knife at her belly. It's cool, no worries, okay? It's all good. Fuck you. He didn't move, but was still dangerous. The weapon was a 12-inch chef's knife. More than likely he was mentally ill and wasn't even in the same universe of perception. For the last 10 seconds she'd been aware of nothing but the threat facing her. Now, to her left and from behind, a guy strode in. His head was down, his right arm and shoulder pulled back, his hand a fist. Like an eagle striking its prey, he swept the blade aside and drove a blow hard into the attacker's gut. In an instant he crumpled to the ground. The stranger stamped on the hand still clasping the knife and kicked it away. "Did he touch you, ma'am?" He spoke with a confident voice, like a movie star cowboy. "I'd tie him up if I warned you. I'd tie him up if I were you." Metropolitan Police Constable Olivia Johnston Denny reached for her cuffs. All the same, she was indignant that this man had intervened. She'd begun to feel in control. The suspect was groaning on the floor. "He's in pain," she said. "It's just so great when a plan works out." Didn't this guy care? Where was his social awareness? "Look, thanks, but he's more to be pitied than blamed. He'll have all kinds of issues with drugs, relationships, and mental illness." "Doesn't alter the length of that blade, officer." She bent down, snapping the cuff onto a pale wrist. The backs of his hands were smeared with dirt. The prisoner flailed out with his free arm. Her saviour grabbed it and bent it like a straw for her to apply the other ratchet. "Guess that spoiled his day," said the stranger with a laugh. He really did sound like a cowboy. He also looked hot and arrogantly aware of his good looks. "Sir, thanks. He could have hurt you, I know, but he didn't see me coming. He was looking at you. I mean, any guy would." She glared into his smiling eyes. This man was pretty much full of himself, sexist and flippant. "I'll need a statement from you." "Sure, I can state right here and now that you're from Scotland, right?" He was getting right under her skin. Sure, she was from Scotland, but it was none of his business. Everyone is from somewhere, even this poor bloke. Even this poor bloke. "Keep talking. I love that accent." This was ridiculous. She drew a deep breath, shot him a sharp look, and took care of business. She pressed her shoulder mic button. "Whiskey Alpha 370, transport for prisoner, 9 Elms Lane, over." A male London voice hissed back. "This early in the morning? What you call, Ollie? Jack the Ripper? Christ, we've been waiting That was a bit Australian. "Christ, we've been waiting over 100 years. OK, van on way. Tea's up in 10. She smiled. It was good to have a team around her, but she had to swallow the Ollie. "I'll wait while the cavalry comes over the hill," drawled her companion. She didn't mind having him there. She didn't like his attitudes, but hell, she could overlook his flaws for an hour or two. She knew it wouldn't be professional to get into personal conversation. She was only just out of her probationary stage, and her best friend was still the Met Police rulebook. "So you think I have got an accent, cowboy?" "Sure. And how did you know my name was Cowboy?" "Well, you're not from Edinburgh, and you're sure not from London." Only you in this world is ever allowed to call me Cowboy, okay? That's our little thing for the rest of our lives." "The rest of our lives together will be about 5 minutes. The stranger smiled a slow smile that spread like the rising sun on a cornfield horizon. "You said you wanted a statement, and I want to state everything I know to you just to hear your voice, wee lassie." She couldn't help it. She started to giggle, then laugh, pulling off her hat and letting her red hair flow free. "Is that Lassie the Hollywood sheepdog?" "It's Lassie the warrior maiden of the glen." To be honest with herself, she could just hug him. She'd been afraid, and the sense of relief was surging through her body. His boyish confidence and man-force just zinged to her inner woman. She was 24. This man was early to mid-30s. In the distance she had the wail of a police vehicle siren. It was the dawn of a bright, late January London day, of bare trees and wind-whipped rags of scudding cloud. And Olivia Johnston Denny, the granddaughter of the Duke of Falkirk, was clinging on to everything she'd ever believed about men and about life. The prison truck pulled up, blue strobes creating the theatre of everyday tragedy. The cowboy stepped back while they loaded the prisoner. She realised she didn't want to just slip away from this man without knowing more. She could walk away from any male, any heartless alpha mansplaining patriarch. Anyway, he'd been married with kids and a blonde wife who knitted stage costumes for their perfect children. She also ran the Ford Motor Company when she wasn't giving TV interviews about her beauty and intelligence. You could hate a woman like that, simply for submitting to testosterone dominance and the cliché of the nuclear family. She mumbled the official statement of rights to the prisoner and jumped up into the vehicle. Cowboy was smiling. I can't even do English now. Cowboy was smiling. Better not forget the knife. Careful, it's sharp, he said, handing her the weapon, handle first, like a gentleman. I'll be at the embassy all morning. The name's Jackson. Like the 7th president. Anyway, which embassy? Hey, that's impressive for a Scottish lassie. The Cowboy Embassy. The big new place with a horse rail outside. She had to laugh. This guy really was a patronising mansplainer. The new American embassy was a couple of 100 yards away. She knew very well he was from there. If I need you, I'll just ask for Mr. Jackson. Jackson T. Payne, if you want to be technical. Congressman Jackson T. Payne, right? She repeated. You're addressing Parliament this afternoon. Sure, lucky you caught me on my coffee break. I'll call you. I guess the Cowboy Embassy has a phone line. There's wires along the railroad. You'll get through if the sheriff shot all the bandits. An officer was pushing the doors closed. The cowboy waved and turned away. He was a chauvinist barn door hunk. His suit accentuated his body. He raked his hand back through his dark brown wavy hair. She hated him. So that's a bit more than I would normally read, but I just quite like the ending of that chapter. That was the first chapter of Emma Calin's Power, which is from her Passion Patrol series. You can listen to the first. Did I already talk about how much I love a boxer? Because there's a boxer in the first, in combat. You can hear that one already, and you can hear this new one, Power, on Audible, Amazon and iTunes. I'm aware that I have taken up nearly 12 minutes of you good people's time. You can find me, Rebecca McKernan, at RebeccaMcKernan.com and at Becca Tells Tales at Twitter and Facebook. Over and out. Mwah.